There's a powerful lesson in your memoir that I really love, and it's one of the most important ones, I think, to take into the lessons for our relationships and love and intimate relationships. And that is turning judgment into compassion and judgment into being curious. Because a lot of the times in a partnership, we can look at our partner and say, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with you? Why are you doing it this way? But sometimes taking a break from that judgment and asking yourself, I wonder why, or getting curious about who your partner is, why they're thinking the way they think, is so powerful, and it can really change a situation. And in your book, you've been in so many different situations where your life was what you wanted it to be. You followed your heart, but then it wasn't all of a sudden, and you wanted something else. And instead of being angry, instead of blaming, you just decided to go your own way and do your own thing. And so there was a lot of compassion and understanding. So let us know how you arrived there and how we can apply that into our own relationship.
I can't give myself all the credit, because I believe that I've always been paying close attention to the possibilities of opportunity. When opportunity knocks, there's some saying that I've heard in my life, when opportunity knocks, open the door.
Absolutely.
And so in every situation, with every marriage, and I got married in all my early relationships because that was just what you did. If you were sleeping with somebody and you loved them, the next step was getting married. So I always said yes forever to being married, and I still love those men forever in my heart. But something happened each time, with about three relationships in a row, where opportunity knocked at the door of my consciousness and at the door of my life. And I realized I can say no to this opportunity and stay true to the vows that I made with so-and-so, or I can take a chance on following the power of this opportunity and still keep my heart open. And I would say that is what happened each time, because I never stopped loving anybody. I just Facebooked my third husband, who I haven't been in touch with for 15 or 20 years, and say, how are you? I've just been reading about our trip through the Rockies on horseback, and I love you, and I just wanted you to know that.
That's really sweet.
So even when the change is before your very eyes, and you know that in order to take advantage of an opportunity, you're going to have to change something that is set, that is, you've signed an agreement, you are married and you're living with this person, and this is where you are, that I had the right to change the course of my life. And each time I did that, it was very scary. I was giving up what was security each time. It was a home and a partnership, a good man that loved me and was willing, to be married to me. I was willing to give those up several times in order to take advantage of an opportunity that I knew I had to take advantage of. I had to say yes to sailing on that sailboat with a guy that I called it love. I called it being in love, but it really wasn't. It was an infatuation. But it was also my soul knew that I needed adventure. And I needed to take advantage of the opportunities that came my way.
Absolutely. I think there's a big lesson for all of us in there and we're obviously not going to be following,
of course,
leaving our life behind. Most of us don't have that kind of courage or even want to, but there is a lesson there too. If something's calling you, turn to your partner and say, hey, I would really like to try this. I would really like to experiment with this. How can we make it work where it works for both of us, right? And a lot of the times we want something, but we don't voice it. And so our partner cannot read our mind.
It's true.
And then friction happens, frustration happens, misunderstandings happen. And then people cheat or lie or deceive their partner. Where if there was just a conversation of, listen, I need to do this. Listen, I want to experience this. And that's what you've done so beautifully in your book, where you explain your experience. You've always been open with your partner and said, I need to do this because.
Mm-hmm.
And they were open-minded enough to say, go ahead, spread your wings and fly.
Yep, that's very
Right?
true.
It's
Very true.
very powerful.
Very true. And I could totally give my partners
Yeah.
credit for their being able to love me that big.
Mm-hmm.
That they didn't say, oh no, if you do that,
Yeah.
I'll throw the book at you.
Yeah.
And I'll take everything and you'll lose the house. And they made room for me to spread my wings and fly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, in my deepest heart, I'm so grateful to everyone that I have been with in a love relationship because they understood that to love someone is to let them go. There was a little something that happened when I was a kid about a little bird sitting in the hand, and if you squeeze too tight, you'll hold the bird from flying.
Mm-hmm.
It will not love you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you open your hand and let the bird fly, it will probably circle all around the world and land right back in your hand.
It's beautiful, yeah.
And I think I just knew that.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way about them, even though I might have thrown a fit, especially if they wanted to be with another woman or something that would, of course, make every hair on my body stand up. Yeah. But I found the place in me that could say, okay, I'm not going to throw the book at you. I'm not going to throw you out with your shirts and your luggage and your socks. Yeah. Find them outside the door, which was part of the threat. But I will welcome you home to our love and in deepest friendship. Mm-hmm. Go, my love, go. Yeah. And that's been in the learning to let go, just to let it go, and follow love has been
absolutely
big teaching for me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and in rereading my memoir, I realized I've done a pretty good job with that.
Absolutely. Yes, you have, for sure. I mean, I read your memoir and I know that I am not as courageous or open to that. I mean, if my partner came and said, I would like to sleep with another woman, I would not be okay with it, but I feel like, and you might also, connect with that, or you might be as open-minded and open-hearted and evolved as Caroline is. But I think there is a compromise. I think a relationship doesn't need to end just because a partner wants something else. Yeah. And the other partner is not open to it. I think it always comes down to communication and saying to each other, I am not okay with that, but maybe there's a compromise. So if your partner comes to you and says, I would like to experiment and maybe have a connection with another person, and that's not your thing, you could say, I'm not okay with that. But how about we go to a strip club and you get a lap dance? Would that work? We'll do it together, or you do it yourself. That's my boundary, right? Kind of work around it. There's always options. There's also, I've worked with couples who had such differences in their needs and wants, but they still loved each other, where they came to a conclusion that once a month or once every 3 months, the one partner was allowed to hire a sex worker, and they would have their fantasies, their kinks, their desires worked out with the sex worker, and they would be
paid for sex worker.
Paid for sex worker. They would come back, and the marriage was continuing.
Interesting.
The same way. So this is really where the judgment and compassion and curiosity comes into place in practice. Because sometimes we get to the idea that if we're not aligned, it has to be the end of the relationship. Yeah. Sometimes it's not that at all. There's different forms of love and connecting, and every relationship is different. And so it always comes back down to communication. What do you need? What are your desires? And how can we make it work together?
Boy, speaking, on the subject of communication, and you've read this in my memoir from about the middle of the memoir to the end, where I was in a tantric marriage, which turned out to be where we had the freedom to love other men and women. Yeah. And really the invitation was never, I want to go sleep with someone, but I feel the need to awaken with this young man who was wounded in Vietnam, and I feel like I need to awaken with him.
Okay.
And so if I had been told by my husband at the time, or if my message was, I need to sleep with somebody or have sex with them or fuck them, I don't think it would have gone over very well. But we were operating at a level where communication was, and other attractions. If it didn't have to do with awakening, and if it didn't include the husband and the wife, at least energetically, it didn't have to be in the bed, but I know you belong to him, but I take the privilege of loving you. That actually worked a number of times.
Absolutely.
But it was all how it was held in the languaging of awakening versus sleeping.
Absolutely.
If you're going to go, you're not going to let your husband go sleep with somebody. But if he actually awakens with somebody and has more to bring back to you, that was a concept I at least had to entertain.
Absolutely. That you could work with.
I could work with that. And I found that it did happen. And that's one of the things I talk about in many of the chapters. I wrote the book because of the connections with those people I was allowed to love. By my beloved, who loved me that much, and knew I would come back. And knew I would come back blown away by the connection that I had with them. But I had to write the book so that I would never forget how generous love can be. That I had that much space.
And that's why we can all learn from you so much.
There's a lot to be learned, a lot of ways in which we can hold sharing a partner with somebody. And this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart because so many people face it, whether they talk about it or not.
Absolutely.
You guys can at least say it out loud. Many couples, the woman or the man can't even say it out loud that they wish they could awaken or sleep with somebody else just for the variety of it.
And it's a reality, and it's just about opening up. So think for yourself now, what are some of the things that you have on your heart that are calling you, that you would like to experiment with, but you're too shy or too scared to share those with your partner? What would happen if you just came at it from an open heart and just saying, honey, I just want to share something with you. I'm just curious about something. How could we work through this together? How could we, and what are your fantasies? What are some of the things that you're interested in?
Make a list.
And then see, meet in the middle. It doesn't have to be black or white. You can just find a little, we've given you some examples from little ones to extremes, and you find your own middle ground because every relationship is different. Your love is your love, and you decide how to do it, with whom to do it, and what that looks like.
You can create a connection time with your partner that's called heart talks, and you really are invited, each of you, to listen to the other one's heart talking about, there is somebody that is in my life at work that I see how much I could help that person if I was free to love them, and just talk about it. It doesn't have to be a yes or a no, but have the talk with your partner and get those things out on the table and play chess with them. Move them around.
And pay attention to how you communicate, because a lot of the times in a partnership, I feel like it's so easy to judge your partner and say, well, for example, they're not talking to me, they're closed off, or they're not sharing their fantasies. But ask yourself, what am I doing to bring that kind of behavior to the table? Why is my partner not feeling comfortable sharing their fantasies, right? Instead of saying, well, there's something wrong with them, ask yourself, how am I showing up? What am I doing and contributing to the fact that my partner doesn't want to open up? And just start to think about it and start asking open-ended questions and communicating. This is not something that will happen overnight. It's a big topic, but it's something that is very beneficial. If you have a fantasy, if you have a kink that turns you on, there's something to be said for voicing it, sharing your deepest desires with your partner, and figuring out a way that works for you.
Communicating about it. As soon as it's out between you. And usually it's fear that she's going to bring it up again tomorrow, or if I tell her, she's not going to want me to go to work, and all these kinds of things. We've all got them, so let's get them out there on the table, right?
And that's exactly why we're having these kind of conversations, right? It's so diverse. I mean, Caroline has her own stories. I have my own boundaries and stories, and you will have your own. You and your partner will have your own boundaries. You and your partner will have your own agreements that work for you or don't work for you. And it's all perfect. There's no right or wrong way to do a relationship. As long as it's all consensual, you're not harming anyone. Do you and live your life your way. It is that thing that you said. If something's calling you, give yourself permission to at least look how it would be like to step outside of that box, to follow your heart. You don't even have to, sometimes the fantasy is better than reality.
Oh, for sure.
And you can use your mind as a sex organ. You can use fantasy as spice in your relationship without ever stepping outside of the boundary that you have with your partner. Yeah. But it is just paying attention, looking at these stories that Caroline is sharing with us, and saying to yourself, what is there in there that I could allow my spirit to fly, or my heart to, soar, or and share with your partner, and just play with it. It's not harmful. There is nothing wrong with it.
No, it will wake up a lot of unaccessed energy, a lot of energy between you that could be accessed, that could bring more aliveness to the relationship. But you got to get in there and say it. Right? Take a risk. Risk. Oh my God, if I said that, he would be out the door, or she would be out there. Try it. Give the partner a chance. To process something that you're afraid of.
Now, don't bring out these conversations up when you're in bed, when you're about to be intimate. No. Bring these conversations, maybe watch this video together and start that conversation that way. Just pick your time and space where you bring these conversations up, and go gently, be open-minded, and give your partner time to catch up. Don't just spring this onto them when you're watching this video.
Right. Make an agreement over a time period that you're going to have these honest conversations.
Yes. If you'd like to learn how to communicate with your partner a little bit better, a little bit deeper, a little bit more effectively, we have a free gift for you in the show notes below. You can download our small phrases, big results in the show notes below, and start communicating with your partner. Start opening up some of those sacred conversations that you want to be having.
I'm excited for you.